All right, we are on air. It is Thursday, November 19th. And today we're going to do a little bit of a working meeting. We've got fewer people than usual. Nate is at the Nonprofit Developer Conference in Oakland today. So what I thought we would do in the design meeting is do a really quick rundown of what we're working on in Backdrop, but then do a working meeting trying to figure out the elements that we're going to want to collect for user registration on backdropcms.org, since that's what we're going to be working on next here for the Backdrop site. So for Backdrop, the product 1.3.0 is user experience focused release, and we have a bunch of little teeny tiny issues if you check in the GitHub issue queue under the milestone 1.3, and we'll be working through those, getting pull requests and trying to get as many of those in as we can on or before 3.0. But we have three major areas that we're trying to get serious design and user interface improvements done on. One of those is layouts. We know when we put it in, that was a kind of a minimum viable product for getting a usable tool done. We have a follow-up issue with a bunch of issues that have, either we knew we didn't get done the first time around or that people have brought up recently that are getting worked on. Views UI is something that is always been really painful just because it's a really powerful tool, and trying to build an interface that is understandable for something that can do so many things is really hard. We know that it's a pretty good interface now because everybody who's been working with it for Drupal 7 for the last 5 years has kind of learned their way around it. It definitely has room for improvement. There are specific things that we're having trouble with the Views UI and Backdrop, like making it responsive and making the font consistent and stuff like that. So there's a handful of follow-ups. But there's also been kind of a larger movement to kind of rethink the views problem space and see if we can come up with a better solution for that as well. I'm a little hesitant to try and push that by 1.3. Number one, our primary audience right now are people coming from Drupal 7, and I think taking the most complicated tool and removing their understanding is not going to be a big win on that. But I would love to see an improved Views UI. And so I think that if we can develop a Views UI module in Contrib, that might be a good place to start playing with significant improvements to views that we could then slate for Backdrop 2. So that's something to think about. Like when our primary audience becomes people who haven't used Backdrop before, making a tool that's more intuitive for them is going to be really important as well. So there's an issue for that as well. It's issue number 1314 on GitHub if you want to start thinking about that. And then something I would like to see get into 1.3, but may not happen because it's going to be really hard, is a new redesigned field UI. And I know that WaxU in particular have been doing a ton of great work on that. We're going to need to figure out which way to do it and start thinking about technical implementation pretty soon if we want to get that into 1.3. But I definitely think we still have time to do it. So if anyone wanted to start working on that, that's totally, Field UI is also a separate module in core, so we could just kind of swap out the one that's there with the new one when we're ready on 1.3 timeframe. So I think that's kind of what we're working on in Backdrop the product in terms of design user experience stuff. Also, if anyone is working on a new front-end design that would be a good base theme for anyone to be able to launch a site on or build a new theme off of, we can put that in any time. So if you have one on a site you're using now you really like, you want to make a recommendation, we can create an issue to put that in core. We can evaluate it, we can rewrite it if necessary and make it core ready. That can go in anytime in the 1.x release cycle, so just keep that in mind as you're building Backdrop sites and making themes, that we are kind of looking for something bootstrappy in the sense that it looks good by itself, but it's also easy to decorate to make it more elaborate. All right, so backdropcms.org, primary website. We know we have a bunch of follow-up issues to do for modules, themes, and layouts. I was looking through the issue queue today on those, and we've actually got a bunch of good feedback from people who have been using the primary website about things that they want. A lot of those things are things that were in our original design comps. We just didn't have them technically implemented. So I think maybe it's a good time to focus on those. If anyone wants to work on the primary backdropcms.org website, the whole thing is in a public repository. If you go to github.com/backdropcms, backdrop-ops. You can find it there. So if you want to make a suggestion, that's fantastic. There's an issue queue. If you want to write a pull request, that's even better. So we're definitely looking for that. Anyone who wants to contribute there, we're definitely welcome and enthusiastic for those kinds of things. So we'll definitely keep improving module themes and layouts, but our focus right now is to get the profile page elements down, because what we want to do now that Drupal 8 is out, it came out today. Congratulations, Drupal 8 and all the people who did amazing work on that. Now that that's out, people are going to actually start trying to compare Backdrop and Drupal 8. And it would be great if we could give people something to join, like when they come to Drupal.org, they can create a Drupal account, they can get information on other Drupal people. We should have the same kind of thing for Backdrop, even though there isn't a lot for people to do on the Backdrop website yet. We're hoping there will be in the future. So we should go through and figure out what kinds of things are going to be most important to collect on Backdrop users, Backdrop people. So I'm going to start with Drupal.org because that's what I know. And I think they actually have done a really good job over the years of trying to figure out what is most important data to collect on people. And then we can also take a look at things that aren't Drupal related, like if WordPress or Rails or any other website/community is doing something that Drupal hasn't thought of. We should look at that and see, or maybe Drupal has thought of it and decided they didn't need it. We should think about whether that is valuable for us as well. I would be really interested to see like what the jQuery community does or Symfony, like people who are based on GitHub. What do they feel like they need to collect that's not part of the GitHub user account process? And see if we can build kind of the same thing in parallel for people who are on GitHub and people who aren't on GitHub. And that way we can make everybody, designer, developer, or just enthusiast, feel welcome. All right, so I'm starting on the Drupal.org user page, and I think we should definitely collect some of the same things. So under personal information.
Screen share maybe, or would that be?
Yeah, let me see if I can do that. I was also going to be kind of going back and forth between notes, so maybe I can find a way to just share my.
I'm just seeing the future where Darius or I are
trying to watch this.
Get the feedback, yeah, and document it.
I think I have to share my whole screen. Do you have access to edit this Google Doc?
Let's see.
I was just wondering if maybe I could get you to take notes, so then it's not, because I'm just going to be going like back and forth between the two screens, and that might be a little, make people nauseous. It doesn't look like I can choose a specific browser. I can choose a specific tab in my Firefox browser, but I cannot choose my Chrome browser. It's a little weird. I wonder if, oh, technical problems. Yeah, okay, that will work. If I log into Drupal.org on Firefox, okay. All right, this will work. Then I can share that tab. Ta-da! Start screen share. Okay. Can you see my Drupal.org page?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'm just going to go ahead and take a look at what's on here already. Maybe I should start from the edit side. Okay. So personal information is where I was before. I think we definitely should collect first name, last name, and country. I don't know what save my location means. I mean, how do you not save the location? I don't know. I'm going to tell you what location is, but I want you to forget when I hit save. No, I don't know what that means. Language might be useful too, like especially if we're starting to figure out how many people want transliteration, or I don't know, like some transliteration is a bad example because we're putting that in core, but I18N or something like that. That might give us a good idea of like how many people are not in non-English speaking languages or locations. I'm not sure we need gender, but I think it's good to collect just to, trying to figure out, like, I think Drupal has a lot more female members than other open source communities. And I think they're really proud of that. And I think that having that information would be useful. So maybe we should collect that as well. A biography, I think, is good. People can say whatever they want about themselves. IRC is probably fine. I think over time we might not stick with IRC as our chat client. We might switch to something like Getter, in which case your GitHub username is going to be far more important than your IRC name. So maybe in the short term we should collect IRC plus as soon as we add single sign-on with GitHub, we'll be collecting GitHub usernames as well. Any websites people want to show off, I think, is also good. Same with social links. I think that's letting people choose their social media profiles to share. Time zone is built into Backdrop. Language settings, that's interesting. So I guess we collect like what languages you speak, which is different from what language you would like to see this website in. I think this is also built into Backdrop, but we could see contact form. We don't have contact module on in Backdrop. I'm just trying to remember what the status of contact module in Backdrop. I think we took out only the email field contact, or no, we took that out of email module. Okay, so it should be the same. So we can have that on. And then we do have a Backdrop newsletter mailing list we could add in there as well. So I think that would all be good. We, I think, aren't using Google Analytics, but if we do, we can have that as well. So this is just kind of like Drupal stuff. So it'll be Backdrop stuff in Backdrop. All right, so under the Drupal tab on Drupal.org, there's a list of things that people contribute. I think that would be good as well. This gives people who aren't necessarily developers the chance to highlight the contributions they do make that aren't necessarily code related. So I think that's super useful to let people say, these are the things I do, even if they aren't. You can give them a little credit for things that might not be so visible. I also really like the idea of having mentors. It lets, it shows a little bit more of the community aspect. So just saying like, these are other people that I, have worked with or have been inspired by or similar. So I think if we could add that, that would be fantastic. Areas of expertise. I mean, I guess if you're like an SEO expert, you might want to say that. I feel like it's maybe less important for Backdrop because I don't know. Who knows? It could be useful. Backdrop events, we obviously don't have any of those yet, so we don't need to use that. I mean, we could say like Backdrop someone at Badcamp, but I feel like maybe it's too early. Too early. Okay. Work. I definitely think it's great for people to be able to highlight where they have and where they could work, especially if we end up using these organizations as in the services listing, or I don't know, people, like if you wanted to give credit in the showcase part of the website. It is a little bit complicated on the architecture side because we need to then like create an organization and then try and give people an easy way to add new organizations in addition to referencing existing ones, which is kind of a usability study in getting that right. But we definitely could figure out a way to do it. And then I also think industries is interesting too. I think it would be great if we could do, yeah, this is all leftover from previous, I think, but rather than a text field, which is how Drupal.org used to do it, making sure we have like make it more like tags or something similar, so we could count like how many people are in education. Okay, so far we haven't found anything Drupal does that we don't want. Get access, newsletters, we should only have one. Email addresses, everybody can see my email addresses. It's probably fine. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I think that all of the stuff that they're collecting is pretty darn good. I'm not sure. I think that it'll come down. I think that it'll come down to, you know, technically, what can we do easily versus what's going to be hard.
Was there a like expertise?
There was an area of, yeah.
There was.
What they called it.
I couldn't remember. I haven't pulled mine up yet.
It's under Drupal. It was under the Drupal category. Yeah, areas of expertise.
Oh, yep. Okay. Yep. Cool.
That's funny. It was on the Drupal tab. I would have put it on the like work tab or something, but
right.
Well, we can figure out how to organize them for Backdrop.
Right. Yeah. Random thought. It'd be kind of cool to if people from Drupal could like migrate their profile or something easily. I don't know if that's feasible. Just a random thought.
Yeah. I mean, we could do, I don't even know if this is possible anymore, but do like a single sign-on with Drupal.
Mm-hmm.
But that might be getting too crazy. Okay, I think that's a pretty good list. I'll try and, I mean, we looked at the edit form, not necessarily the view form, but I think that we don't necessarily need to display all of the information we collect. Things like mentors, we don't, oh, that's a question. Do we want to use their profile picture, right? There's definitely like a bunch of good ways to display things that we could say, oh, you know, I want to show a list of my mentors, but if we don't have a profile picture, then we can't, it's not going to be visually as exciting to put them on the page.
Sure.
So I would say we should collect profile pictures. We can decide in the future where to display them. Like if we do end up creating a Backdrop-based forum, having people's photos there is nice. But yeah, I don't know. All right. Well, is there anything that you didn't see that we should collect?
Yeah. So I was looking at other ones. So GitHub and some. Well, I think Drupal might have it. It's just showing what projects you contribute to, if any. Like if you auto do that.
We might be able to pull that in when we do the parsing of the readme.txt file, which shows project maintainers. And it's a little easier on Drupal because they, you know, all of the projects are maintained on Drupal.org.
Right.
But we could do something similar too.
Yeah. Or it could be like the project, if the project has fields on backdropcms.org, one of them could be contributors and it selects users. That'd be an easier mapping. It'd put the responsibility on the maintainer to log in and do it though. Looking at WordPress, they have activity, which is kind of interesting, but they also had favorites, which I liked. So like the maintainer like favorited some plugins.
Okay.
Kind of interesting. I don't know if it'd be very useful for us, but
I mean, I think it could be because that way, you know, you could see like which are the most favorited projects, like what's everybody's most favorite theme. Like there could be some useful information there where even though you're not a contributor, you want to record that.
Yeah. They also had these little icons for plugin and themer developer, which is kind of cool.
So giving someone like a badge.
Yeah. Oh, badges would be fun, but that's like a whole gamification thing.
Yeah.
LinkedIn, meh. I thought maybe, but no.
Nothing good.
Nothing good. Yeah, I don't know. That was about it.
Okay. I was checking out what's on Sensio Labs Symphony as well, user profile.
Mm-hmm.
And it has single sign-on with GitHub, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook.
Wow.
Which is pretty interesting.
I wonder if there's a nice third-party library to handle all of that for me.
Probably for
that.
something that's Symfony based, I bet there is. But yeah, then additional fields they have is birth date, which is something I don't think Drupal.org collects, but that could be interesting.
Birth year, maybe.
Yeah.
I hate it when things tell me happy birthday, but maybe that's just me. It's like, you don't know me.
Having a happy birthday.
Yeah, or that. That'd be the worst. All right. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, and then just the short bio field. Looks like all the other stuff they've got: city, country, company, job position, name. And Symfony just has a single field for name, which I think it makes more sense for a European community, or there are some places where first name and last name don't necessarily mean the same thing. A single field also allows for a middle name. Like some of us have middle names and we like to use our middle name, and first last doesn't do that. But it does make it hard to sort people. So if you ever want to have a list of people and sort them by last name, you can't do that with a single field.
Yeah, I do go by my middle name, so I am one of those.
Yeah.
But there's always like the how would you like to be referred to versus the data. What is your first name, last name?
Yeah.
But like an extra field, which is kind of annoying.
I think I kind of would lean towards a single name field and say, let's just not list everybody in the same place. Like, I'm not sure that we have a use case for doing that now. I'm not sure there's a use case for doing that on Drupal.org. But that's just, how they collect the data. It does make it easier if you're like managing mailing lists and stuff to be able to have dear Mr. Lamport, whatever. But meh. Okay. Well, yeah, I think that's a pretty good list to start with. Yeah. All right, where's my meeting agenda? Ta-da. Okay. Just taking a look at the other things we're planning on doing on the website. A showcase. I think in a showcase we might want to list the person who posted it. And if we could link to their profile and have all of this fancy information, that would be fantastic. We also want to do a service provider listing. That's another use case for having that organization, entity, or node type, or whatever it is we're going to do there that we can reference. And yeah, so I think all of these things are going to tie together. Same thing if we want to do like job postings. The job postings would probably belong to an organization. I think that organization, something that Drupal's done really well, is giving organizations credit for contributing to things in one way or another. So either letting them contribute like directly on a module page, which we kind of can do in the credits section on README files on GitHub. But also then as a developer, when you're working in an issue queue, you can say, I'm working on this project for this company, or I'm working, you can specify which company it is that's contributing by allowing you to work on Drupal stuff. I'm not sure we're going to be able to have a similar way to do that in a GitHub world, because there's a way to specify that on GitHub. But having some way, on backdropcms.org for companies to say, like, I contribute to the following projects or something, or the other way around. I don't know. It might be nice.
Yep.
So long term, we'll figure that out. Architecturally difficult. Okay, so I think that's it for Backdrop, the flagship website. We'll get that information over to Darius and see if he can work out some kind of designs. Our timeline for that is December 7th, which is, I think, in 2 weeks or a week and a half. So hopefully that'll still be able to happen. And then I would love it if we could get that profile page actually implemented by January 1st. I think that would be a great, like, 1-year anniversary of Backdrop thing to take care of, where it's like, hey, we've been around for a year. Guess what? Welcome, community. We have all of this stuff you can do on our website, even if the stuff is like add to your profile and company organization. It's a start, and I definitely think that's important. So changing the focus for the entire like 1.3 release to be like, this is about people who are interacting with software. It's about the user experience, about the look and feel. It's about having a community to join. I think spending the first year on the software was important. Like, we needed to have a product to be able to promote. But now it's the time to be like, okay, we're also about community. So I think that'd be great. All right, well, that's all I had for this meeting. I did want to reiterate that if you love dragons and you want a t-shirt or hoodie with a dragon on it, you can go to backdropcms.org/contribute. And if you make a donation of $25, we send you a Backdrop t-shirt with a dragon on it. If you make a donation of $50, you get a hoodie with a dragon on it. They're very soft and comfortable, and we have a lot of them, which we're hoping will last us all year. But if you want to get your orders in now, we'll mail you one before the next Backdrop event, and you'll definitely get one before we run out. So that's good to know. And other things we do, if you are going to an event and you want to give a talk on Backdrop, we have slides in Reveal.js on GitHub under the Backdrop Ops group. And if anyone wants to spend some time working on online branding assets, I did create an issue. It's on the backdropcms.org queue, but it's issue number 121. If you want to help us create like a background image for Twitter, Facebook, Google+, any of that, there's a little conversation going on over there about what kind of imagery we should choose to be consistent across all platforms. And if you're really interested in helping us create a consistent user experience across all of Backdrop, Core, and Contrib, we are working on human interface guidelines. We haven't had anyone contribute any documentation there for a while, but it is something we want to do. We're running into issues already about when and when not to use things like drop buttons and vertical tabs. And getting those documented so that we can refer to that, I think, would be really useful going forward.
Did you see there was something I was interested in kind of doing? I think Nate responded. It was basically like, what if we did something Pattern Lab-esque that accomplished code documentation and like UX guidelines in one?
Yes, that sounds amazing.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure that Pattern Lab is the right tool because its annotations are very tertiary, like they're very off to the side. But like something like that, I think could be really good. Like the style guide modules, like pretty good, but I feel like it shouldn't even maybe be in Backdrop. Like maybe it's a separate repo.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna think about that, but right now I'm gonna probably focus on Field UI.
Okay. Yeah. So many projects.
There's so many little things. All right.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and wrap up this meeting then, unless you think there's anything else we should talk about either today or in this meeting, which happens every 2 weeks.
No.
Okay.
So good.
Well, let's wrap this up, and then developer meeting starts in half an hour. So we'll go ahead and start talking about developer tasks then. But thanks for coming, Wes, and thanks for watching, and thank you everyone who watches in the future.
Bye.
Bye.